I'm Amy, I'm the Globetrotting Stitcher, and I am back today for Flosstube episode number 4. Thank you so much for coming to hang out with me today. I hope that you all are doing well. I wanted to start out, I had a lot of great comments over the last couple of weeks, and so wanted to thank everybody for your comments. Really enjoyed reading them, and in those comments there were a few questions, and so I thought we could start off today by just answering those questions, then have a little bit of a life update, and then we'll get to the stitching, but I promise it won't take too long to get to the stitching today. So Charlotte Miller asked what kind of a scroll rod I use. So right now I'm using an Omnic Quantum frame that I ordered from Omnic, who, as many of you know, they're based in Estonia. And I have a love-hate relationship with this frame. So part of the problem is I ordered like one of the largest frames that they make. So mine is a 70 by 40 centimeter frame. So those of you who have seen it in previous episodes know it's a monster. And the size isn't so much a problem except for the height. So I have found that because it is so tall, there's actually only a small section that I can use as far as where I'm stitching. So it's nice for being able to see the full piece all stretched out and nice and taut when I'm stitching, but the actual space where it's easy for me to reach with my arms and stitch is a lot more limited. So that's one consideration that I think I would have done differently if I were to buy a frame again. The other thing is it's also a very wide bar. And because it's such a wide bar and it's made of like solid wood, it's actually a very heavy frame. And so one of the things that I really struggle with when I'm working on the piece that's on that is that I actually have to prop it up using some of the most ridiculous setups that they don't make anybody in the household happy. The dogs can't get to me, I can't get out, and so it's not, it's a great frame, but there are some downsides to using it. But having said that, if I were to purchase, again, I would absolutely not hesitate to purchase another quantum frame. I would just go with a much smaller size that would be less heavy. Okay, so then Sully B said, I refuse to stitch pieces with lots of snow. What are some things that you won't stitch? That's a really great question. And there's actually not a lot of things I won't stitch. There are some things that I'm hesitant to stitch. So if a piece has a lot of back stitching, I don't enjoy back stitching. One of the things that got me really frustrated when I was working on my Purity, Strength, Truth, My Dimensions kit that I did for my husband was the amount of back stitching in that. I love the dimension that back stitch brings to a piece, but I have a tendency to work on pieces that use different shading as opposed to backstitch to get depth in the design. So again, if I love something, I'll do something that has a lot of backstitch, but it's not something I gravitate toward in a lot of my pieces. The other thing that I find that I don't, and again, I will stitch it, but I don't always enjoy it, is pieces with a lot of confetti, just because confetti slows you down. Any stitcher who has done a piece with heavy confetti knows it makes it a lot slower to make progress. And because I'm a progress stitcher, I find it really demotivating. So again, I don't know that there's anything I won't stitch, but those are some things that I tend to avoid a little bit more. And then Stitch Addict said, you seem to beat as you go. How do you prevent them from getting crushed when you move the design around the Q-snap? So my solution to that is just to make it a bigger Q-snap. So I have the largest Q-snap that's available, which is a 17 by 17 frame. And then I also have the extension kit that Q-snap makes. And so I can actually increase the size of that up by another 3 or 4 inches, I think. And so far, I have yet to have a design that I've stitched that has beading that is larger than like 20 by 20. So I haven't run into that as a problem at this point. It's entirely possible that at some point in the future I will, but so far I've been able to fit the whole design within the frame and not have to worry about crushing any beads. So that's how I do it. Okay, so I thought I would give you guys an update as far as what I've been up to the last couple of weeks since we filmed. First of all, thank you again to everybody for your really kind comments and for your well wishes for Bear. He had surgery almost a week and a half ago now, and he's doing really, really well. His surgery went really well, and he's had a pretty, with the exception of his first 12 hours home and just kind of picking him up and getting him home, he's had a really good recovery. He's done very well. He's going to have a wicked scar, and so he is very excited about showing that off to all the lady dogs and impressing them with how tough he is. Right now, he does not look terribly tough. He is pretty much naked from the waist down, except for he has one like sock of fur. So he does not look like the big bad that he wants to think he is. But when all of his fur grows back and he's allowed to take walks again, I'm sure that all the lady dogs are gonna think he's a tough guy. But in all seriousness, he's doing really well. We are going to be taking him in in the next couple of days to get his sutures removed, and then he'll be able to get rid of his cone of shame. And I think that nobody in the family is going to be happier about that than Sister Sophie. Bear is actually, although he doesn't like the cone, he's handling it really well. But Sophie, our other dog, is definitely not a fan. And she actually seems like she finds the cone kind of scary. And so it's been really sad and pitiful because while he has been recovering and not always feeling the greatest, Bear wants to get close to Sophie and snuggle up to her, and she will have no part of it. And so it was kind of funny because the other night, when laying in bed, Bear was on one side and Sophie was on the other, and Bear decided that he wanted to be next to Sophie to sleep beside her. And so he got up and he, crawled across, and as soon as she saw him coming, she was like, no, that's not going to happen. She got up, got off the bed, went around to the other side. This happened no less than 3 times where he tried to cross over to be close to Sophie, and she was just giving him the stink eye, and she wanted nothing to do with him and his cone. So she's going to be very happy to see the cone go, as will the rest of us. As far as other things we've been up to, we had a really great Father's Day. It was pretty quiet. We didn't get to see our families, unfortunately, just, trying to keep everybody safe and healthy, but we were really delighted because our son came out to visit us for the day, and so we got to spend some time with him, and that's the first time we've gotten to see him since the outbreak of coronavirus and all the various stay-at-home orders have been put in place. And so we really enjoyed spending time with him, and that was just a really special treat for Father's Day for us. Other than that, as we're getting into the stitching, one of the things that you'll see is that I haven't made much progress on a lot of my pieces. I always have visions of making a lot of progress, and I've started on a new project at work that's really starting to ramp up, and it's going to be a long-term project, and I'm putting in a lot of long days right now, and so that obviously has an impact on how much time and energy I have to stitch in the evening. So hopefully I'll get a better balance in the next few weeks and get back to more productivity, but it is what it is. All right, so one thing that I'm excited to share with you is that this last weekend, and this also cut into stitching time quite significantly, I went on a fully finishing frenzy. So I had mentioned in my last video, I think it was my last video, that I had a backlog of my monthly cottages from Country Cottage Needleworks that I had actually finished all of the stitching, and they were just waiting for the fully finishing process to be completed. And I'd been kind of kicking myself because I kept thinking, why don't you just get this done? Just get it done. And I actually had gone out, and my friend Rochelle met me at the fabric store, and she was my consultant, and she helped me. She's always been there to weigh in with her opinion on the objects that I'm finishing off, and so she was really helpful. And so I had all the supplies that I needed, but I just hadn't gotten around to doing it. And so I said last weekend, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna get it done. I want to get these things ready so they can be displayed. I forgot just how much time. Maybe the rest of you find it faster. Some of you who are like the fully finishing divas, you're cranking it out every week, and maybe you're just so used to doing it that you're fast. But it took me like 2 full half days over the weekend to get all of these done and ready to share with you. But I'm really pleased with how they turned out. And so I'm going to be sharing 4 fully finished objects with you in the Country Cottage Needleworks Cottages of the Month series. So the first one is actually an update to a previous fully finished object. And this is the July Cottage. Now, I shared with you in an earlier video the frame that my father made for me and that my husband stained for me. And this was the first cottage that I finished. I stitched this one last year, and I had finished it so far as I had mounted it and I had put on the little, I don't know what this is, like little ball trim here, and then the red backing. But I was always kind of disappointed that it just didn't feel quite done yet. And so I felt like I wanted to put one more mounting board behind it. And so I ended up finding this really pretty sort of blue plaid-ish shirting fabric at Joann's. And I really like the way it kind of sets it off and grounds it. So this is the July Cottage by Country Cottage Needleworks, and I'm really going to be enjoying having this up and on display over the next month. Okay. So the next cottage that I finished off this weekend was the October cottage. This one has been done for 8 months, so it was long past due. But I'm really, really excited with how this one turned out as well. So I've got, this really pretty orange and green backer, and then little daisy border on here. And I just think it's really sweet and really fun. And I love the richness and the depth and the way the different colors set it off. So that's October Cottage. And next, and this I think might be my favorite of the bunch, this is the December Cottage. So I have a lifelong weakness for plaid. And this plaid, I debated about whether it was the right one, even up until I actually did the finishing, and through the finishing process, I was a little worried that it might be too much busyness going on. But in fact, I think it ended up working really well, and that there's a nice, I don't know if the camera's able to pick it up, but there's a nice little bit of sparkle in this pretty green fabric that's the one base, and it just, yeah, it's just really, really pretty, and I love it. And so I'm really looking forward to displaying this come at Christmas time. And then the final piece in my fully finishing frenzy was the February Cottage. And again, this is one that I wasn't quite sure. So I had tried to pick up the fabrics for this to do the finishing on it some months ago. And I was just not satisfied with what I was finding at the fabric store. And so when my friend and I went to the store recently and picked these fabrics out, I was still not entirely sold. But I'm actually really pleased with how it turned out. The only complaint I have at this point about this piece, and this is just an illustration of the challenges with different dye lots when you're working with over-dyed flosses. In the original design for this, there's a distinct difference between, there's a dark pink and a light pink. And so the darker pink is used for February, and then in the house, in the window frames are the dark pink, and then the house is a light pink. And what I found when I purchased my two threads for this piece was that both of those pinks were actually almost identical. One was just slightly darker in places. And in fact, you can probably see that the letters for February, some parts of them are so pale you really can't see them well. And I've questioned about whether I should have maybe gotten a darker pink and restitched it, because what I ended up having to do, there are several places in this piece where the two pinks are side by side, and it's supposed to be creating, a dark light effect. And because they're so close in color, you couldn't actually tell that there was any difference between them. And so I ended up having to put in some backstitch in this dark sort of fuchsia pink just to create some depth and show that there was a border there. Overall, I like this piece. I think it's really pretty, but I wish that the threads had been a little bit more consistent with the dye lots that were used in the original design. But it's okay. I love it, and I think it's pretty. Okay, so that's it for all my fully finished objects. You will notice that despite the fact that I finished the August Cottage in my last, and shared that with you in my last video, it is not among my full finishes. And that is because I'm waiting to have one more that's fully finished, and then I'll do the full finishing on both of those together. And so hopefully in the next 2 to 3 videos, you'll get to see those. All right, so how about we get started and I will show you all of the whips I've worked on since my last video. You might remember that the last time we filmed, I had just started the Primitive Merry Christmas Pillow by Abby Rose Designs. And as I was telling you when we filmed, I had decided to do a few things differently. So we'll put up a picture of what my start looked like the last time we filmed. And when you see that picture, you'll notice that I had the tiniest of new starts. I had just started stitching the M for Merry Christmas. And I had a few hours after that day, after we finished filming that day, to do a little bit of stitching. And so I made some pretty good progress. So this is where I am right now. And I'm actually pretty excited with how far I got for just having a couple of days to work on this. I think, unless, well, as busy as things have been, it may not happen. But if I can get my normal amount of stitching time in when this comes up again, I think I'll be in a good position to maybe actually finish it off. So I am stitching this on 32 count gold opalescent natural Belfast linen by, I think it's a Zweigart, if I remember correctly. And it is, yeah, it's a Zweigart. It's got the orange thread running through the selvage. I picked this fabric up at Acorns and Threads and down in Portland earlier this year. And I had decided that I wanted to do a slightly less primitive palette for this design, as I was sharing with you last time. And I've switched out a few of the floss colors. But I made an unfortunate discovery, and it's really funny because one of my viewers left a comment on the last video when I started this, and she had pointed out that, or she had given me a tip that on this particular chart there is a correction that the designer has put out because a couple of the symbols are really close to each other. I found that out the hard way, and so I really appreciate the tip that there's a correction on the chart that you can get from the designer, because I don't know if you can see this all that well from there, but if you look at the Merry Christmas on the actual finished, piece here, and you look at my beginning on Merry Christmas, it's notable that mine is red and the design is dark brown. And I discovered this after I had been happily stitching away and putting in all my beautiful overdyed ribbon red. And then I looked at the chart because I was starting to work down here and I was getting ready to put in the berries. And I realized that I was not stitching with the right color up in the letters. So it looks really pretty, but it's a real departure. I wanted to make just a slight departure from what the design calls for and make it a little bit brighter and less primitive. But this is ending up to be a real departure. And so I need to make a decision about whether I want to go forward with it and just do a really different version of this, or if I want to go and rip all of that progress out and put the right colors in. So maybe you guys want to weigh in and let me know what you think, and then hopefully we'll see what I decide the next time this comes out in my rotation. But that's where I am right now on Primitive Merry Christmas Pillow. All right. So the next thing I worked on after the Primitive Merry Christmas Pillow was my Rose Quaker sampler. And we will put up a picture of what the Rose Quaker sampler is going to look like when it's finished. This one, as I'm reviewing all of the comments, this one is clearly emerging as the fan favorite. So many of you will pop into the comments and say, oh, the Rose Quaker is my favorite. I love all of them, but I really love the Rose Quaker. And I have to agree with you. It's just, there's something that's really special about it. And I've really enjoyed, so many people are sort of coming out of the woodwork and saying, hey, I'm working on this one too. And so it's really fun to know that I'm not the only one who's out there who's working on this, and there are so many of us that are plugging away on it. So actually, I'll put up a picture of what it looked like the last time you saw it. I'm stitching this design on 32 count soft apricot linen by Color and Cotton. I started this in August of 2019, and I'm at a place where I think I may be able to get a finish by August of this year. So not as fast as I had hoped, but making it. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up this monster almanac frame and show you what it looks like since I've been working on it. see if we can manage to get me and the design on the camera at the same time. So I had a week to work on this, and I will be honest, my progress on this particular design was just abysmal, and I'm really sort of disappointed in where I ended up getting to with it. So I finished off this motif here, which was a fun one to stitch, and it moved pretty quickly. I also finished off this one, which was a bit of a monster to stitch. And for those of you who are working on this, if you haven't got to this particular motif yet, I wanted to tell you, pay very close attention to the chart, because I flagged that in other parts of this design there are some minor charting errors, and there were quite a few charting errors in this particular motif. There were, in some cases, there were stitches that should have gone in that were missing on the chart. In other cases, there were stitches that were there that shouldn't have been there. And I don't think that it, I went ahead and where I noticed it, I corrected. But there are a couple places where, I think one of the things that we all expect from like a primitive, or not a primitive, but from a Quaker is that there's the mirroring. And so in this particular motif, the mirroring is not exactly perfect between each of these buds. I think it's beautiful. I don't think it really takes away from it in any way, and I don't think it's noticeable unless someone points it out to you. But just kind of a heads up when you get to that motif, maybe just take a close look before you start stitching to kind of identify where some of those inconsistencies are, because there's at least maybe 3, maybe 4 of them. So anyway, I finished that, finished this, and then I got a start on a motif that is one of my absolute favorites. So I'm really close to finishing, I think this is page 6 of 8. And so I'm really, really close to finishing off page 6. And then, so the next time I work on this, I should finish page 6 with no problem. And then pages 7 and 8 are both going to be kind of like half pages, because a lot of the work that I've done here actually carries over onto those pages. So I'm hoping to see some really significant progress on this the next time it comes out to play. All right. The next piece I worked on was my rose trellis in, and rose trellis in, we'll put up a picture of what that's going to look like when it's finished. I am stitching this on 28 count white Lugana, and this is a Heaven and Earth Designs chart that they charted a piece of Randall Spangler art. We'll put up a photo of what it looked like the last time you saw it. And what you may remember is the last time I had worked on this, I was really, really close to finishing the last little diagonal section on the top row of pages. So I had a little bit of work left to do on pages 5 and 6. And I was really, really delighted because I did actually manage to make the big milestone I was shooting for. I finished off pages 5 and 6. I'm all the way across the top row of pages, and I'm now working in the second row of pages. So let me go ahead and put this on the board and show you where we are right now. And we'll see if we can do this. This one's a little bit big and bulky, so give me just 1 second. So there we are. I know all the hanging threads look a bit messy, but they'll get stitched in. So I'm finding that getting some good progress and hitting that milestone has really reinvigorated my interest in working on this piece. I'm also really excited because I know that once I get past page 7 here, I'm going to get to start working on some of the beautiful house, and it's I'm going to get to some new colors and some just some really exciting pieces of the design that are part of what really drew me to it in the first place. And so I'm excited to kind of reach that point with this particular piece and see how much progress I can get on it. It'll probably be a couple months before I actually, really make enough progress that I'm in that section, but just knowing that it's coming is really exciting for me. So this is where we are on Rose Trellis In. All right. My last whip that I have to show you today was also a new start last time. and that is the January Cottage by Country Cottage Needleworks. We will put up a photo of what that will look like when it is finished. And you will remember I had the tiniest of new starts. It was like so tiny it almost wasn't even worth showing it to you. This is actually the one piece that I feel like I made a lot of progress on. So we'll go ahead and show you a quick shot of what it looked like the last time you saw it when it was a brand new start. And as I'm doing with all of my Country Cottage Needleworks cottages, I'm stitching this on a 28 count mushroom Lugana. And this is what I managed to get to. And I'm so delighted with this. So I feel like I'm in the home stretch on the house, and you guys know the houses are always the big time consuming bit. I have finished the word January. I've gotten all the way across the top border, and there's a whole bunch of snowflakes to put in and the whole bottom section. But this has actually been really good as far as just the amount of progress that I've been able to make over the last couple of weeks. So there we are, January Cottage by Country Cottage Needleworks. Okay, so that was all of my whips. Let's talk about haul for a minute. And some of you may be saying, what do you mean talk about haul? You just said fairly recently that you probably weren't going to have a whole lot of haul because Bear's surgery was wiping out the cross-stitch budget. And you would be right, I did say that. But I went on a tear, people. Like, so much of a tear that I don't know if I want to show you all of the things I bought as far as charts. Also, we just need to have the awkward acknowledgement that my husband is standing behind the camera, and I'm not sure I want him to know how many charts I have purchased recently, because it's been bad. So we'll start. I had a split of charts that I purchased that are paper charts, and then I also purchased several PDF charts. So we'll focus right now on the ones just the paper charts that I ordered. All right, so the first new chart that I purchased, this is actually the chart that sort of kicked off the frenzy, as it were, the purchasing frenzy. I really did not have plans to do any buying. And then I saw this chart, and it was a brand new release. And the reason that I wanted to get it, there is a person in my life who I have wanted to stitch something for a very long time. But I wanted to make sure I stitched something that was right for this person. And I'm not going to say who it is because I think that person may occasionally watch my videos. And so this is meant to be a surprise, and I don't want to give it away. But I saw this chart, and the second I saw it, it was the first chart that I had ever seen that I said, that looks like something that person would love. It's really simple. It's so beautiful. And so this is a brand new release, or a really recent release. It's called Flowers Always, from Liz Matthews. So simple. And it's so pretty. And I think that the person that I am planning to stitch this for is really going to love it. I think it's going to work for the way that they decorate their house. And so this shot right up the short list of things that I will be stitching in the next couple of months.
So if they watch this, right?
Yeah.
They might know who they are.
They might.
Oh wait, just keep going.
Okay.
Don't mind me.
Don't mind the voice of reason in the background.
Do your thing.
Husbands can be a source of inconvenient truth. So anyway, you will be seeing this slip into my rotation in the fairly near future because I really do want to get it done this year for this person, who hopefully is not watching this video and figuring out that this is for them. So because I knew I needed to purchase that chart for my gift, we all know that no chart travels alone, no chart travels without supervision, and so I felt that it was only fair to ensure that there were some other charts to come along to keep it company. So the next chart that I picked up was The Anniversary by Lila's Studio. And I don't know why I love this so much. Maybe it's the colors, but I've been staring at it for a bit and I really like it. And so at some point, it's not in my immediate plans, but at some point I would really love to stitch this. I'm going to do a color conversion on it so that I can make the lady a redhead and make the gentleman look a lot more like my husband. But other than that, I think this is just perfect. So maybe this will be an anniversary piece for us at some point in the future. I'm sure my husband is thrilled right now. The next piece that I got is Halloweenies by Plum Street Samplers. You guys, I think this design is so cute. I love all of the wiener dog designs that are done by Plum Street Samplers. So I already have spring rolls. And I'll probably pick up a few more at some point in the future. Just because, I mean, there's a wiener dog in a witch hat. How can you not have that in your collection? I mean, it's too cute. It's too cute. So, Halloweenies. And here's another one. And so some of you may remember that I did actually say fairly recently that I really don't stitch much primitive stuff. And I really don't, except I really love this. So this is another one that I haven't been able to stop looking at it since the first time I saw it. This is A Perfect World by Scarlet House. I don't know exactly what it is that I love so much about this design. I know I love this border. I love this sort of checkered grass here. It makes me think of Alice in Wonderland. But I love the sentiment that is on this design. It says, "In a perfect world, you would find me here with the birds and the flowers and the dogs and the deer." And that is a perfect world to me. So really, really love this. I'm really excited to have it. And this is my first Scarlet House chart. I know many of you out there love the Scarlet House, and so I'm going to be joining the ranks of people who enjoy their charts, I think. I won't go through all of the digital charts I purchased, both for the sake of time and for the sake of modesty, in the sense of let's not show everybody all those digital charts because there were several. But I will just say, so in my last video I had shared it with all of you that I was thinking about maybe adding a slot to my rotation because I was really wanting to scratch an itch and stitch a chart that reminded me of some of the places that I love to travel to and spend some time. And so a lot of you have, you all responded and gave your opinions, which I really appreciated. I have to say, although a lot of people liked all of the charts, I think the clear fan favorite was Bush Market. And I went ahead and I decided to just get all of them because they're all such great charts. So we'll see which one I decide to stitch, but I think one of those will be appearing in my rotation in the near future. So that's enough about haul. Let's just wrap up by talking about what I'm going to be working on over the next couple of weeks until we film again. So this week I will be working on Celtic Autumn. And I wanted to say, by the way, thank you so much to Olivia from Pumpkin Hollow Quilts for shouting me out in her recent video. I've been watching Olivia since she first started filming, and I never miss a video of hers. I always enjoy her Flosstube episodes, and so I may or may not have squealed and ran upstairs to my husband to say, "Guess who shouted me out?" But then
Yes, you did.
Shh. Always trust your husband to out you. It didn't happen. It didn't happen. There's no proof that it happened. But anyway,
There's no proof this was filmed either.
We're going to move along here, people. All I can say is that it absolutely made my day. And I love the fact that the design that I'm working on inspired Olivia and spoke to her. And so she's also going to be working on Celtic Autumn and doing the Janet Granger conversion just like I am. So I'm really looking forward to watching her progress on that. So that's the design I'll be working on this week. Following that, I am going to get back to work on my Primitive Merry Christmas pillow. So I need to make up my mind about what exactly I'm going to do with all of those red letters that I've started and whether I'm going to rip them out and stitch the chart as called for. We'll see if I'm able to get a finish on that. If I do, I have a pretty good idea of what I'm going to be starting. But we'll save that and see if maybe we have a little surprise start for you in the next video. I may also have a new start on one of the Hannah's Needlecraft charts that I was telling you about. I need to make sure, as many of you may know, I don't have a massive fabric stash. So I want to take a look at the few pieces that I do have that aren't already designated for something and see if I have something that would lend itself, that would work really well with the colors that are called for in those charts. So if I do, I will probably get started on one of those. If not, then I may need to do a little bit of shopping. We'll see. And then finally, I'm going to continue to plug away on my January cottage and see how much progress I can make. I've really been enjoying working on that as time has allowed. So that covers it for today. As we mentioned in the last video, we are looking at and talking about some potentially some additional videos or some add-ons to some of the videos over the next couple of months. Just kind of showing some tips and tricks and the way that I do things. So be on the lookout. Hopefully we can get some of those going in the next month or so. We're also going to see what we can do about maybe occasionally incorporating some stories and videos and photos from some of the trips I've taken, because there seems to be quite a lot of interest in that. So thank you for that. But for now, thank you so much for spending some time and hanging out with me today. It was really great to be with you. If you are just checking me out for the first time, I hope you enjoyed my channel. And if you are a returning subscriber, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I'm so glad to have a growing community of stitchy friends. So if you like this video, please hit the like button. I encourage you to subscribe. I'd love to have you stick with me. Feel free to comment. Let me know if you have any feedback or thoughts. And if you're interested in watching future videos, make sure you hit that little bell to get notifications. You can also follow my progress on a weekly basis on Instagram. I am globetrotting_stitcher. So for now, take care, stay healthy, hug the people you love, and just stitch on all the things that give you joy. We will see you very soon. Bye-bye.